Beginning. For some of you, some of these things may be new, but for most of you, you're probably relatively comfortable with this. One thing I want to include in this is the fact that you may be familiar with your desktop computers or laptops or netbooks. Really, the tablet computing and portable computing has changed the computing paradigm. You have no mouse or external keyboard. That's huge. You move things by using your finger, a long hold, a swipe, or a tap, a double tap, a pinch and zoom. All those kind of things weren't available up until just a few years ago. 2007 is when that kind of stuff became mainstream with the iPhone. So we're really not talking that long ago when all this became apparent to everybody. And so the paradigm in computing has changed. There's no desktop. So you don't really have like a desktop where you have files and folders and a hierarchical menu of things that you would store. Or say, for instance, your shortcuts that you would go to that you would click on. We'll talk about that in a second. The screens each have these icons that are application launchers. Every one of those icons that you see basically ends up being like an application launcher, or you can consider it to be a shortcut, an alias in the Mac world. Basically, they launch something. And of course, you don't have folders where files are saved. The files are going to be uploaded. Everything's about uploading off of here. So you could be using the word save, you could be using the word share, or a content consumption device. And those are three totally separate items. We create things in content with your iWork suite, with your pages, your keynote, your numbers. That's content creation. The distribution is where you're distributing things throughout the student body. They're collaborating, they're sharing their screens, you're sharing things on Apple TV. You have distribution. And then, of course, you have consumption, where you're browsing the web, you're taking things in, you're consuming that information, you're reading a book, whatever the case may be, you're having that consumption. So yes, all the above. That's what this tablet is capable of. All those kind of things. And these are the three main areas where the iPad can be utilized. Here's a little video that talks about some of the basic features that I found on YouTube that just kind of talks to some of these things. What about saving files that are created in iWork apps? Because when I came in here, one of the things I wanted to know was, where are these files being saved? And I started to find out how things are being done. And as a content creation device, if you're creating this content and it's in a one-to-one situation, well, all your stuff's right here. But what happens when it's in a cart? And all of a sudden the cart goes away. And the student has created their PowerPoint, there we go, because PowerPoint and Keynote are synonymous. They've created their Keynote presentation where they've typed something up in Pages. Now it's resident on the iPad itself, and the cart goes away. What, do they have to wait for the cart to come back for them to continue working? No, not in particular, because they want to upload that. Now, I know everyone has the PV Eagles account, so they have a Google Drive account. Now, part of the problem is, though, what I've discovered is that when files are created, say if you're doing a Keynote presentation, I'll use that as an example, and you upload that to the G Drive or the Google Drive account, what ends up happening is it converts it in a way that's not going to allow you to bring it back down and use it. And that's a problem, because now you get a different iPad, and all of a sudden you can't use it because you can't get it back down in the original format that you sent it up to your Google Drive. Now, Google Drive is great. I love Google products. I use 12 of them. But in this particular case, because of iWork and the way it does not work well with storage of this content that's created, we need a different solution. And that solution really is Dropbox. And you're using Dropbox here already, and many students and many teachers are already using this. So this is kind of what's being done. So let's assume for a moment that I'm taking this file that I have, this Keynote that I created, and I'm going to go to my Tools. And from the Tools, and again, bear with me because I'm going to have to go through this quickly because we have only a little bit of time. I'm going to try to put this up on the website or put this up on a link to my website and so on, so you'll be able to have access to this if you want to see more of it. Also, share and print. That would be your next selection. And now you're going to have an option here to send it up as a Keynote, a PDF, or a PowerPoint. Well, you're probably going to want to keep it in Keynote if you're going to be working on it some more in Keynote. We'll talk about why that could be an advantage in a few minutes. This is the screen you're going to get. It's going to be creating that presentation, uploading it in some way. You're going to choose the app. And after you choose the app, this is going to come up. Now, your icons may differ because right now it's looking at icons that are on my iPad that I configured. What you're going to be looking for, of course, is Dropbox. Now, the problem is you cannot upload to a Dropbox web account. You can only upload to an application. So therefore, on the iPad. So if you were on a computer, you'd be able to save a file up to Dropbox via the web, Dropbox.com. You can't do that on the iPad from within Keynote. or from within your iWork applications. So here, to get that icon, the application of Dropbox needs to be on the iPad, which is what we're going to be working on getting on there for you, so that students will be able to load those things up. And there it is. It would be saving it into that space, into what your Dropbox listing would look like for files that you've already saved into your own personal Dropbox. If we want to open those files from Dropbox, now we go on, we launch the Dropbox application on the iPad, on a different iPad that a student has picked up from a different cart. They're going to find the presentation that they had. They're going to go back up here and go to opening, excuse me, opening it in Keynote. And once they do, they're going to import the presentation. So what they do is they've basically exported it and they're going to import it back in again. They've exported it to their Dropbox application and now they're going to import it back in so that they can then use it on that iPad that's in their possession now, not the one that they had the other day when they were working on it. So now how do they open those files from Dropbox? Once they have those files, they need to open it. So now what they need to do is they'll go into that, and we have the Dropbox. That's what the application was. You downloaded it. It was imported. You have the file. They're then ready to go. But there are also some positive changes in the wind that's happening with Apple. And I don't know how many of you follow what goes on with Apple. You know, how many know that new iPhones were just introduced? One thing you want to watch out for these iPads, you're going to be getting a lot of prompts asking it to update software. You don't want to update the software. Okay, and you may not be able to anyway. You may not have the access for it. But you probably will be getting prompts about that. So you can ignore that. Because iOS 7 just came out. That's the new operating system for, it goes back to iPad 2s as well, and of course on the iPhones. Some of these new changes that are in the wind, which I think are very exciting, is that now, it's in beta right now, meaning that it's in a testing phase, although it is available. You will be able to open Keynote numbers and pages in a cloud beta. And you'll be able to go into iCloud with an iCloud account, upload to iCloud, and then be able to work on an interface on any machine. And that would include Macs or PCs.